Hey there, welcome back to Eat the Fucking Food. Today's guest, I'm so excited to share with you. Her name is Alia Khan. She is a body inclusive yoga instructor. And yes, we talk about yoga, but we also talk about how healthy comes in every shape and size. Alia and I chat about how situations from our past, how doctors spoke to her, how people in our lives influenced how we saw our bodies, influenced how we treated our bodies, and that what we could and could not do. We talk about how comparing ourselves to other people from a physical standpoint, from any kind of standpoint, can rob us of joy. And we talk about the real true essence of yoga. That is to bring peace to ourselves. So if you're someone who has let something stop you from trying anything you're really interested in, even if it's not a yoga class, this is a conversation you need to hear, because I think when it's done and once you get to know Alia, you're going to go out and do the thing you've been waiting for. Let's go to the interview. Alia, welcome to Eat the Fucking Food. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kristin. I'm really excited about this conversation.
So am I. What I am most excited about is how you promote that healthy bodies come in all shapes and sizes. I believe this to the core of my being. Can you tell me a little bit more about why that is such an important message to say again and again?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I have always been a curvy girl and I developed early, which meant that my BMI has been high since I was a child, which meant that doctors have been telling me that I'm technically obese since I was like 7 years old, 8 years old. And I spent so much of my childhood and my adolescence believing I was fat, believing I wasn't pretty, believing I wasn't, attractive in a world where I also am not dumb. I see how much that matters when you're a girl. Like little girls see that, right? We see how much people value that. So it colored, and I think a lot of us struggle with that for various reasons. I only recently kind of finally traced it back to, holy smokes, it was doctors that actually planted this idea in my head, because I was looking back at pictures of me from when I was a kid and I'm like, I wasn't anywhere close to being obese or even fat. No, I didn't have a flat stomach because I'm South Asian and most of us just genetically don't or can't. But I certainly was not obese. I wasn't even fat. I was active. I was a healthy kid. And I was really sitting with that for a while. And I was like, where did I get this? Because so much of my childhood and so much of my low self-esteem when I was younger came from believing that I was fat, that I wasn't skinny enough or whatever. And now when I reflect on that, I'm 42 now, and I reflect on that and I'm like, man, I don't want to say I wasted so much of my childhood, but I spent so much of my childhood sad and upset and unhappy with myself over this notion that I was fat, which now, of course, the BMI is being debunked and the truth about it has come out. And we know that it's really the bullshit mass index, right? Because, and from what I read, apparently the guy who came up with it even said, don't use this for medical purposes. This isn't appropriate for that. So anyway, so that seed was planted, so young, and I did so much work on myself in my 20s and even my early 30s to like overcome that and really understand, oh wait, no, I am beautiful, and there are much more important metrics for healthy than how I look, right? You're telling me that these super skinny gals, which nothing wrong with being skinny, if that's what your genetics gave you, cool. And that's really what it comes down to, is like the genetic lottery. Genetics determines so much about how we're built, how we're shaped, and there are some of us who, no matter how much we work out, how much we diet, our bodies are only going to get so much smaller. We're only going to lose so much weight. You can't, unless you resort to things like plastic surgery or whatever, there's really only so much we can change about our bodies. And I realized, okay, this isn't about being healthy. This is about looking like the people on the magazine covers, and I'm missing out on a whole lot of fun and joy in life because I'm so busy trying to mold myself to look like someone that I like just genetically, biologically can never look that way. So what would happen if I embraced the way I actually am built, and I focus on the metrics that do matter, like my energy levels and my mood and how much sleep am I getting, and my blood work, like real metrics of health, like what does my cholesterol look like, and just focus on those, which all of those were great. Those, I was always healthy by like actual health standards. So yeah, that has kind of been my journey around that. And then I know we'll get into this, but going into the yoga world and becoming a yoga teacher, there's so much, so much
Okay,
to
so
unpack
let's
about what
go.
you
We're right there. I love that you call yourself a recovering lawyer turned yoga teacher.
yeah.
Can you tell me about that journey? And
Oh,
then
for
we'll
sure.
get into the challenges you faced or the messages you've had to change for people when it comes to yoga and the practice of it.
Absolutely. Okay, so in a nutshell,
Yeah.
child of immigrant parents, overachiever, always had to do
Doctor,
the like
lawyer. Yeah.
right, doctor, lawyer, engineer, those were my options.
Right.
I liked
I'm a
doing.
first generation American too on my mom's side. And
Oh,
everyone
cool.
was
Okay.
like, it's all doctors and lawyers until me. And then it was like, oh, we're getting a little watered down.
Yeah.
Like the cousins. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I started off, on the beaten path doing the things I was supposed to do. And so went to law school, practiced law for almost 5 years, and knew that it was not for me. I mean, I was fine at it, but I wasn't great at it. I definitely didn't love it. And more than that, it wasn't fulfilling at all for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do instead, because my whole life had been focused on getting me to that place. And I got to that place and I was like, oh, shoot, this isn't where I want to be, but I have no idea where I want to go next, because no one's ever asked me that question and I haven't. Yeah, so
Right.
that was a whole journey, which I actually talk about on my Substack. Little shameless promo here.
No, absolutely. Throw it out there.
My Substack is all about my journey going from lawyer to yogi and all the lessons I learned along the way, because I want to share them so that other people can also, build their own lives that they love, live their own truth. I think there are a lot of societal and cultural obstacles that keep us from living the way we really want to be and being the kind of person we really want to be. And a lot of that starts with just we're not asked the right questions when we're young, so we don't really know ourselves well enough to know what we even want. It's easy to know you're not happy. It's a lot harder to know, okay, well, what would make me happy, right?
Or even what you're exposed to. If everyone around you, you don't know to ask the questions. It's
Yeah,
not
you know
even
what you
that
don't know.
someone didn't ask you. It's that, was this even a possibility? People do this and earn a living and have joy. It's just opening up those doors. And I love how what I'm hearing when you're talking, that there was this untangling for you, not only in the way of like how you saw your body because how people projected onto you, but also how you saw your career based on what you thought was expected of you. It's really a neat relationship going on there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all absolutely connected. It all comes down to living your truth, embracing who you truly and really are, and then building a life that honors that, whether that's professionally, whether that's learning to love your body for who it is and understand
Yeah.
what healthy looks like in your unique body, right? Living your truth is this sort of big kind of fluffy wellness
Right.
statement, but there is, if you really think about it, there's a lot of gravitas behind it. It's living authentically. That I feel like people like to say that more right now, and that's really what it is. It's like we're raised to make especially as women and girls, like we're taught to make everybody else happy, to do the things that everybody else wants for us or everybody else thinks is the right move for us. We're not taught to really go inward and examine, okay, but what's right for me? What would make sense for me? What am I great at? What do I love? What would fulfill me? Those are the questions that we definitely need to be asking kiddos, but we all should be asking ourselves at all times. And that actually, it ties back to, that's what yoga is really about. And that's the way that I really strive to teach yoga, is that it's evolved into this sort of guru culture where all these people out there are like selling their snake oil and telling you to follow them blindly. And I think that that's all hooey. And I'm really out here trying to teach people No, everything you need is inside of you. You just can't hear it. You don't know how to tap into it because there's all these other voices coming at you, all these distractions. We were raised not to trust our intuitions. It's so sad, right? And then all of the like grifters and wellness people out there, they're encouraging that narrative of no, you don't know what's right. I know what's right. Follow me. And I'm here to tell you that is nonsense because what's right for each of us is different. And then when it comes to food, when it comes to health, when it comes to profession, when it comes to everything, right? We're all unique. Our little meat suits are very complicated. We're all unique individuals and we need to figure out what's best for us. And that's what living your truth really means to me is understand who you are, what you need, what works best for you, and then make the choices that align with that. And so that's what I'm out here trying to like preach or teach, spread the gospel, both on the yoga mat and off, right? So on the yoga mat, that translates to, okay, I know Instagram is full of all of these super fit people doing super crazy poses.
I saw one the other day. It was a yoga pose. It was like easy, medium, hard. And the easy.
Exactly. The easy one is really
it was like, stand on one leg, bring your other knee up, put your hand through. I'm like, well, just on the knee up, I'm down. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's the shit that scares people away from trying yoga. It really pisses me off because I'm like, if you're out here calling that easy, of course people are going to be like, oh, well, if that's easy yoga, then there's no way I can do this.
And then they tell themselves the message, that's not for me. Exactly. They get another error message fed right into them because that's what they see. So what is your approach to yoga?
Yeah. So I started practicing yoga in 2008 when it was like really in its heyday and popularity here in America, at least. And I've always been a curvy gal. I guess you can't really see on screen, but I got big ladies, I got big hips, I got curves, and that's okay. I love that. Modern day yoga in the US is, for the most part, what you're going to find is based on what's called Vinyasa or flow yoga, which is moving with the breath. And a lot of folks have really leaned hard into the physical challenge and turned it into a pretty intense workout. And there's a lot of different versions of what yoga is, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But this version that's become really popularized in America stemmed from, long story short, it was designed for like preteen boys. Okay, the poses, the moves, the movements, they were designed to keep a bunch of preteen boys from getting into trouble, to keep them busy and keep them moving. So if you think about what the body of a preteen boy is like, right? It's not curvy. They don't have curves. They're young enough to still probably be at least somewhat flexible. They probably got decent upper body strength because they're boys. This is all generalizations, of course. So a lot of the poses that this very physical version of yoga that's become popular here in the US, they're based on that sort of very slim, strong, flexible body type. And so a lot of the teachers, especially initially, who gravitated towards yoga, had that body type, developed the practice for that body type, and weren't really thinking about how to make it work for bodies that didn't move or look like that, right? And so here comes curvy 26-year-old me coming into these yoga classes, and teachers will be cueing these super deep twists or arm balances or whatever, or things that just don't work. The way that they're cueing them don't work in my body because my boobs get in the way. My tummy gets in the way. My arms are kind of short. I have thick thighs. Whatever. It's just the mechanics of my body. I'm strong. I can balance. I can do stuff, but my arm's not going to reach there because,
because it's only so long. Right. And stuff gets in the way. Yeah.
And almost every single time the teacher would just say like, okay, just take child's pose and then pick up on the net. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be left out. I still want to do the stuff. Yeah. So is there a way that I can do this or a version of this that would work for me? And most teachers had no idea what to do with me, basically. And so I started experimenting with props, which is the blocks, the blankets, the straps, and just figuring out how to use those to help me either get into the pose or get into a version of the pose that did work for my body. So as a student, I already started playing with that. And then once I became a teacher, I learned so much more, and right out of the gate was like, okay, how, now that I understand the intention of all the different poses, like what they're supposed to be doing for our bodies, now I can really come up with how, okay, how can we use blocks and straps and props to help different bodies, different levels of flexibility, mobility, whatever it is, help them still get the same benefits out of the pose. It might look different, but who cares? What matters is what's being engaged, what's being stretched. Are you feeling what you're supposed to be feeling? Are you, if it's a strength building pose, are you building? Maybe you're building it at a more beginner level, but are you building strength in the place, right? So you're still achieving the actual intention of the pose rather than just, oh, just wait in child's pose until we get to something that you can do.
It makes it accessible for everyone. I am not a curvy person. I'm still built like a 12-year-old boy on top, even though I'm 54, but not the most flexible person. I need a strap. You know what I mean? I've used blocks in yoga classes, and the fact that you're modeling up front and it's not a throwaway makes everyone, especially beginners who maybe are coming to you in middle age, who've been at a desk and been sitting down most of their lives, who aren't that bendy, makes you feel welcome in the class. It's amazing.
Exactly. And it's so important to me, the way that I teach, the way that I train my teachers. We cue the props using language that doesn't make people sound like using the props is like cheating, because it's not. Like, I am always going to need blocks under my hands in certain poses so that I can clear my boobs.
Yeah.
That's not going to change about
boobs, man. Boobs come into play. I play a lot of tennis. And I remember a male teacher was cueing backhands. Like I said, I am relatively flat chested. So he's reach across and you go. Well, my friend's next to me and she goes, I can't reach my racket because she's fuller chested, right?
Get in the way.
And he was like, she goes, so what do I do? I can't go straight across. And like, he literally was like, well, one, they're talking about breasts on a tennis. Am I going to get in trouble? And we're like, just being, and she went and found a female pro and said, look, Serena Williams, one of the best tennis players of all time, incredibly curvy, has a chest. She goes over the top. And it was like a light bulb moment. And now my friend rips backhands like nobody after all these years of male pros, like cueing her in a way that doesn't work for her physiology.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think if you're teaching movement of any kind, I think it's so important that you need to know how to teach it to all the different types of bodies that might be able to show up, not just the ones that look and move like yours. And I saw, especially in the yoga world, I think I've just seen so much of that, of teachers only understanding how the poses work in their bodies. So if your body works like theirs, then cool. And if it doesn't, then good luck, you're kind of on your own. And that drove me crazy. And so it was a combination of that and what we talked about before of like how many people are intimidated away from trying yoga because people are so busy showing off. To me, I think if you're a teacher, you should be showing up for your students. All that matters is what works best for your students, and showing off what I can do is not teaching them. Showing what I can do so that they can learn from me, sure, that can be useful. But if I'm just showing off to like let them know like, hey, I'm the teacher, no, that's not helping anyone. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of issues with that in the yoga world, and I really, really wanted to bring yoga to the people that weren't being served by it. Whether it was, and it's not just about being curvy, right? My curviness was what inspired me to go down this road of like, all right, how do we use the props? But there's any number of things you might have going on in your body that will make these different modifications, and just understanding the practice in the way that I teach it that will make it useful for you. It could be flexibility, it could be, there's mobility stuff, there's any number of reasons why this approach to yoga I think would be useful for people and will help people feel welcome. And you know, one thing I kind of knew that I was having this effect, but it really, really drove home for me. So are you familiar with Yoga with Adriene?
Don't think it sounds familiar, but not. Explain what it is.
So I think she's the #1 YouTube yoga teacher in the world. She's a big deal in the YouTube yoga world, and she has an app where she brings guest teachers on, and I'm one of the guest teachers. And so she has this incredible online community, and it's huge, way bigger reach than I could probably ever hope for. And when I joined her teacher community, the first set of videos I put out were like tips for curvy folks and how to use props and stuff aimed directly at what we were just talking about. And the cool that her community is so engaged, so they really will comment the crap out of the videos. I love it so much. And oh my God, the comments came flooding in, and I was bawling because, and I'm I'm gonna start crying now. But so many people saying, oh my gosh, I finally feel like I belong on a yoga mat for the first time. Seeing you use the props made me feel like I'm allowed to do it. All this time I felt like I was cheating, or I wasn't good enough, or my body wasn't good enough because I couldn't do things certain ways. But hearing you explain that, oh, it's just because my arms are too short, or it's just because it's things that I can't help, or it's just the way that my body's built, that gave so many people, made them feel like
permission. It gives them, sometimes we need someone to say, yeah, you can do, yeah, absolutely. Permission, I think, is the right word to unlock that.
It's so
what shuts us down.
I mean, I use props in my when I own a studio here in Austin, and I take classes there as much as I teach them, and I use props in my practice all the time. And I'm not just doing that to like demo for my students. It's legitimately how I practice, and it's so important to me that they see that and understand this isn't cheating. There's nothing wrong with it. Accept your body for how it is and what it is, and the practice should be adjusted to fit you. You shouldn't be trying to.
That's why I reacted. That's why I keep saying, people come to me for nutrition coaching, and I'm like, okay, I have a framework. But if this does not work for you, you need to tell me right away. You should never fit yourself into a program. The program needs to fit you. And that's why you go to a yoga teacher like you, or you find a coach like me that's going to personalize it for you. Okay, so you have these videos out there. If someone's listening right now who's been wanted to try yoga, but they're scared. They don't know if what kind of studio they're going to walk into. What are some of the questions they can ask, or what should they look for? Are there ways to find out where the right place for them to be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could be.
Well, first of all, shameless plug again.
Yeah.
Go to yogawithalia.com. I have a huge on-demand library. I have a foundations course for
Oh my God,
beginners.
that's amazing. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I have a ton so you can get started in the comfort and safety of your own home. And then I also, like I said, I own a studio here in Austin, but we live stream all of our classes. So you can join me through Zoom for any of the classes that I teach every week. And we have people who join us from Canada, from Europe, from all over the world, as long as the time zones work for them. So
just go to you.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say. Just go to Alia. That's it.
So the first thing you can do is just check out their website and look at the pictures. What kind of people are in the pictures? On my studio's website, I always make sure our photographs include our actual community, because I'm so proud of the body diversity in our community, the age diversity, shapes, sizes, colors, all, we have such a wide variety of people who all love practicing with us. And I make sure that that's reflected in the photographs on our website. I think that goes a long way. But, check out the website, look at the photos, look at the kind of language they're using, and read the descriptions of their offerings. One of my big pet peeves in the yoga world is all levels classes. That's something you're going to see a lot of, where they'll just say, oh, this class is good for all levels, including beginners. And 9 times out of 10, it's not beginner friendly. And again, people come in, this is supposed to be beginner friendly class. It's not. And that scares them away they think, oh, I can't do this. So look for studios. If you are truly a beginner, look for studios that have classes that are specifically for beginners, or, like we label our classes like salsa flavors, so mild, medium, and spicy. And we're very clear that the mild level class is the entry point for beginners. But anyone can come to a mild class. That's a whole different spiel. That yoga's not a workout. It's not meant to be a workout. You can use it as a workout, but then you're robbing yourself of all of the awesome mental and emotional benefits that come from it as well. So it's not the sort of thing where you should always be trying to take the hardest class that you can, right? Like some days our bodies are low energy, and on those days we should take a more chill class, do a more chill practice. And then some days we do have a lot of energy, and on those days, yeah, take a more challenging class. That's awesome. But yoga is really all about tuning in and connecting with your inner teacher, with yourself, really understanding what's going on inside of you physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's not just a physical practice and it's being taught correctly. So we spend the day with our attention pulled in all these different directions. We're focused on the external, right? All the people asking us for stuff, our jobs, not getting hit by cars when we're driving around, whatever it is. The outside world is very overwhelming, and it distracts us. You can't really fully tuned in to all the different things happening inside of you when you're busy dealing with all the things happening outside of you. So your yoga practice is your opportunity to pause and slow down and tune in, check in, and like notice, how did all that shit you were just dealing with today, how did that affect you? What's your mood like? What's your energy level like? Maybe someone cut you off in traffic and you're still pissed off about it, but you don't realize it because you had to immediately go on to the next thing and you didn't have a chance to like process that experience. And what yoga really is meant to do, the Yoga Sutras, which is like the seminal text of the yoga practice, start by saying that yoga is the calming of the mind. It's a set of tools designed to help us calm our minds and live a peaceful life. And the movement, the poses, are just one of the 8 branches or 8 limbs that make up the practice. So true yoga, it starts with, there are 2 big sets of philosophical principles that you're supposed to live your life by off the mat, because it's really all meant to be a formula for living essentially a life of peace. So it's things like non-harming, non-stealing, truth, moderation. There's a whole set of these sort of principles that you're supposed to live your life by. And then there's breath work. And then, yes, movement is part of it, asana or poses or postures. And then there's concentration, there's mindfulness, which I like to say is a fancy way of saying paying attention, turning your focus inward, right? So leaving all of that, those outside distractions behind, and really tuning in to what's happening inside of you, and getting to that flow state where, you know, you're doing without really thinking anymore. It's happening for you. All of those things are layers of the yoga practice. They should all be incorporated into your practice, and that's how you fully achieve enlightenment or bliss, or whatever English word you want to use for samadhi is what it's called in Sanskrit. But so it's this huge formula for so much more than just touching your toes or doing a handstand or whatever. Those things are really kind of just a tiny fraction. And it's not about being able to do a headstand or a handstand. Or initially, the poses were very simple, and their intention was to help prepare the body to sit for meditation. Because, you know, dropping down to sit for a long time is hard on the body. So you got to move and stretch a little bit so that you can sit comfortably. And that was the original intention. As it evolved, all of these more complicated, you know, people really hooked into the physical part of it and added all these more complicated poses and whatnot. But you don't need to do any of that stuff in order to practice yoga.
I love that, because I just learned from you too. It makes sense once you say it. I don't think, yoga was always like, oh, I need flexibility. Let me take a yoga class. But when you're talking about like, it's about peace in your whole body, I'm like, I need to take a yoga class. It was like it was a whole different thing, instead of the thing like, oh, let me go find time for that. What a beautiful practice. Something you said to me before we started talking, I just want to touch on. We've touched on it just a little bit. And it goes back to this whole, your body is beautiful the way it is. And how much joy have we lost over time comparing ourselves to either what we think our body should be, or, a past version of ourselves, or to other people. And I think there seems to be an essence in yoga there, as you describe it, that reflects on that quote. How much joy have we lost by paying too much attention to other people?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Yoga Sutras also
Yeah.
teach us that one of the sources of our suffering is ego. And ego is being concerned with what other people think of us. How are we going to be seen by others? And ego, I think, runs in direct opposition to living your truth, or your satya in Sanskrit. So truth is one of the principles that we are supposed to live our lives by. And ego is one of the things that causes suffering if we let ego run the show. So worrying about how we look, that's ego. That's what are other people going to think about us, right? How do I look in the picture? What's my mother-in-law going to say? I'm not as skinny as her, or I don't look like that person, or I love the way you said it. Sometimes it's not even about a real person that exists. Sometimes it's just the idea in our head of like, no, I want to be seen as healthy and thin and beautiful, and that means I have to look a certain way or weigh a certain amount or be able to fit into a certain size or whatever. But it's all coming down to, if it's looks are about how are other people going to see me, right? And that's ego. Now, if instead we focus on, okay, what truly brings me joy? What truly feels good for me? And for some people, yeah, looking good, I get it, getting dressed up.
Right. There's an element of that's not wrong with that,
Right. And as with most, I would say probably all things, it's about moderation and balance, right? If you are so wrapped up and worried about how you're going to look and, oh, I don't have the right outfit on for the picture, oh, I didn't do my hair, and then 30 years from now you don't have any pictures of yourself with your kids or any pictures from that awesome event because you didn't wear the outfit that you wanted to wear, or no pictures from Thanksgiving because you had put on holiday weight or any of that bullshit, or, oh, I wore the bathing suit I wanted to wear, but I don't have a bikini body, so I'm not going to be in any photos of that awesome summer vacation we took. Think about how much joy you're robbing of yourself in the moment, and then your future self not having those memories, those photographs to look back to. I mean, how many times are people refraining from even doing a thing? Oh, I'm not going to go to the beach because I'm afraid I don't like how I look in a bathing suit, or I'm not going to go to, even like teenagers, like, oh, I'm not going to go to that pool party because all the girls have flat tummies and I don't, or oh God, it just breaks my heart. And all of that is coming back to because other people are going to look at me and judge me, or because I'm worried about how other people are going to think of what I look like. And that's our ego.
I know.
Our ego is so powerful. It's really easy to let it run the show, and it absolutely leads to suffering.
And I have to say, as someone who's, midlife, every picture that I remember taking and looking at and going like that, oh, I look, whatever flaw I was picking out. When I've gone, because, thanks to the iPhone, like I'm going back like 10 years on this puppy, and I was like, I come across one of those pictures that I remember having a reaction to in the moment, and seeing it now, I go, there's nothing wrong with that. What was I thinking?
Yeah, I mean, going back to how we started the conversation,
Yeah.
now when I look back on pictures of teenage me, her thinking she was fat, she wasn't pretty, I look at her now and I'm like, oh my gosh, first of all, you were a beautiful child, but second of all, that is wild to me that people were telling me, that 16-year-old me, that I was fat, or what have you. And that's the thing with comparison. There's always going to be someone who's skinnier or more fit or has better hair or whatever. There's always going to be someone who's better. There's also always going to be people who are, and I'm really oversimplifying, that's why the air quotes, but there's also always going to be people that are worse. There are going to be people who are heavier. There are going to be people who are shorter or thinner hair or whatever it is. And yet they're allowing themselves to be loved because they deserve love. We all deserve
We all
love,
do.
right? And even if you start thinking about the people in your lives, we often hold ourselves to way higher standards than we do.
Right. Would you talk to your friend or to your daughter or your
Exactly.
sister the way you're talking to yourself?
Would you talk to them that way? You think she looks beautiful, and you know that she looks beautiful. She's heavier than you. She's wearing a larger size dress than you or whatever, and she looks fabulous in it. So why are you allowing her to be beautiful, but you're not giving yourself that grace? And again, I think I can't speak to the male experience, but I know that as women, we put so much pressure on ourselves. We're so much harder on ourselves than we are to anybody else. And I mean, I love that you brought that up. Would you talk to or treat someone else, somebody that you love, the way that you're talking to or treating yourself, especially with self-talk, right? And another one of those core principles that the Yoga Sutras teach us is Ahimsa, which is non-harming. And I think that non-harming towards yourself is just as important as how you treat others. So watch that self-talk. Watch those standards that you're setting for yourself. What are you being kind to yourself? Are you being loving to yourself, or are you hurting yourself because you don't deserve that?
No, you don't. And I know in my experience, it's really hard to really care for yourself in that deep health way, which, yoga or eating enough, sleeping enough, having the energy, if you don't think you have the value everyone else does. So sometimes that's that first step before anything else, making that mindset shift, which can be the hardest change. Like we said, that can be the hardest. The first step is sometimes the hardest. The choice to walk into a yoga studio when you're scared is the hardest thing,
Yeah, I absolutely get that. And I don't even know if I fully answered that question, but I think that was a great question to ask. Is yes, people, do your homework before you go into a yoga studio. Check out their website, and you can tell the personality of the studio from their website. What kind of language are they using? What kind of pictures are they using? What kind of classes are they offering? Go to their Instagram, see what their personality is on, on in the reels that they're putting out or whatever.
Right. What's their tone? Right. You'll get the vibe of the place.
Do a little homework. Yoga studios are not all created equal. I like to say there are more flavors of yoga and yoga studio than there are of ice cream out there. It's really wild how much variety there is, but there are definitely places that are kind and welcoming and that do teach the whole practice, not just the physical part, that do know how to teach beginners, that do know how to teach to different body types. And if you accidentally end up in a class or a place that doesn't make you feel welcome or that isn't making you feel good about yourself, you can fucking leave.
You absolutely can.
If the class is that, I have walked out. I don't do it often, but I have walked out of a yoga class before. If it's that bad, I'm officially giving you permission to quietly roll up your mat and walk out. And if you can make it through the class, but you hated the experience, don't go back to that studio. Or maybe even don't go back to that teacher. Maybe there's a different teacher at that studio that's a better fit for you. But don't give up if your first or second or even fifth try. I know that's kind of
they're like, no.
But if the benefits that I'm describing
I know
appeal to you,
keep
trying till you find the right teacher. And again, or just practice with me. Hey.
Absolutely. Alia, I'm so happy you came on today. I've enjoyed talking with you. I know you've mentioned it briefly, but again, can you tell people where to find you out in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a few different places. Yogawithalia.com is my on-demand library, so that's where all my yoga videos are. My personal website is aliajkhan.com, so that's sort of the hub. You can find links to all the different things that I do from there. My Substack, I stick with Alia J. Khan as my handle everywhere, so you can type that in and find me on Substack, on Instagram. I guess those are really the only, LinkedIn. That's my website. But yeah, so my Substack is where I'm writing about my story, going from lawyer to yogi, and like really writing about how to live your truth unapologetically, right? How to really identify what's misaligned in your life and how to get it back into alignment. I have a retreat coming up in January 2027 that's focused all around that down here in Austin. Would love for folks to join me for that. So yeah, so I've got the Substack. I'm Alia J. Khan on Instagram. Yogawithalia.com is my on-demand library. And then Oaken Lotus Yoga is my studio here in Austin, and I live stream all my classes, so you can go to oakenlotusyoga.com and sign up for a class on Zoom. I also do corporate events if you're looking for something for work. So yeah, I got a lot of offerings out there, lots of different ways you can connect with me.
We have no excuse for not trying yoga if we have not, or practicing it in the privacy of our own home to get started. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Oh, Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.